Welcome everyone back to Burny's briefing room. We hope you all had a fun New Year's, and hope you're ready for some exciting updates in War Commander. We have an action-packed 2018 planned out for you guys. There are some especially big updates in the works for PvP, which is what we'll be chatting about today. We pulled many of your questions from the forum thread, so we want to thank you for posting on that. We'll have Goldendoodle joining us soon, and he'll be answering your questions as well as some other stuff that I came up with. Before we bring him out, though, we wanted to congratulate all the commanders who helped assist Shadow in sealing off von Kruger's thorium mines in Operation Espionage. Even though the mission was successful, the Vercraft threat still looms large in the sector. However, we gained valuable intel during the operation, and it seems like von Kruger may not be after our thorium after all. What do you guys think it should be? All right. So now, without further ado, let's all welcome Goldendoodle to the briefing room. Yay! You here with us, Goldendoodle?
That I am.
Awesome. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic, man.
Great. Did you have a fun New Year's?
I did, yeah. My local board game cafe had a party that was 50% dance and 50% board games. And anyways, I got in a dance off that I won by doing the worm. So, yeah, it was fantastic.
You have more dancing abilities than I do. That's awesome. I just played video games, so I think mine was arguably more exciting.
I don't know. Does that mean you were working?
No comment. All right. Awesome. So I'm sure the community wants to know how you came up with the name Goldendoodle in the first place.
So it's a little embarrassing. My wife and I play this game where we frequently ask each other what kind of dog we would be. Mm-hmm. And she is a beagle, of course. And I am large and blonde with a fairly prominent beard. And so she always says I'm a Goldendoodle. I maintain I'm a golden retriever, but it falls on deaf ears.
That's awesome. I don't know what kind of dog I would be. What do you think?
You would probably be... I'm going to go with a Corgi.
Corgi? Yeah, I do have stubby arms and legs. Sweet. All right. So why don't we get straight into it then? Can you tell us a little bit about what being a lead product manager is all about, and how that is different than a lead game designer like Wrong Thinker?
Yeah, definitely. So at its core, my job for War Commander is to determine the roadmap and the priorities. So I choose from all the list of different things our team could be working on what is the most important and what we should be working on in the future. Mm-hmm. That's it. Cool. At a very high level. I'm setting the priorities and what happens from month to month and year to year. How that differs from Wrong Thinker is that he's responsible from setting priorities for the game purely from a game perspective, so from a player perspective and how it's consumed. So he's about designing new units and new features and different events and storylines. What he doesn't concern himself with, or what his primary role is not with, is working on purely technical fixes. So stuff like bug fixes, technical optimization so that the game runs better, and also maybe productivity improvements on our end. And so my job is to weigh design features like Wrong Thinker works on and weigh them against bug fixes or client performance improvements or closing off cheating and loopholes or exploits. And so it's to hopefully find the right balance between the different activities we could be working on, because the truth is there are far more things we could do for this game than is possible to do with the amount of time and effort that can be got. So we have to determine priorities. And
definitely.
Yeah, and so those priorities come from a bunch of different areas, and my job is to distill all of them.
When you're going through and listing all the priorities that are available, how often do you kind of take in the community's feedback and using that to kind of justify what we're going to be working on in the near future?
Constantly, absolutely. I think that's the number one most important source of information, obviously, is from our players. And so I gather information from a lot of different sources. I spend a lot of time on the forums. I'm sure everybody sees me participating, but I spend a lot more time reading than I do posting. I also spend a lot of time. I have several weekly meetings with all of the community service team members.
We are servants.
Community service. I mean, that's probably true, but community service agents, yourself, as you know, Burny, I spend a lot of time talking with you. And so the idea is to try and distill information from as many different places as is possible. So that's forums through community service agents. And on top of that, I also like to get information through our routine surveys. I really like these because they are a good way to get objective and comparable sources of information, surveys, that is, where sometimes forums can be difficult to weight against the different players because a lot of players don't participate on the forums.
Yeah, definitely.
The last source of information, which is something we do not do a good enough job at, is preview. I think that's a great way to show our players what we're working on in advance of it being released and to get quality feedback. And so we have sent things to preview in the last couple months, but we should be doing that more often.
Yeah, I think the preview server is very popular among the community, and I'm sure they would love to see it more often, especially with all the new units coming out and all the cool features that we have planned for 2018.
Definitely.
Sweet. All right. So let's get into PvP a little bit more.
Okay.
So 2018 is poised for a really big year for PvP in War Commander. Can you kind of give us a brief history of how PvP has kind of evolved over the years and what you think about the current state of it?
Definitely. So PvP has always been underserved in War Commander. It's never been in what I would consider a good state. To begin with, there essentially was the ability for players to attack each other, and that was PvP. There was no system in place, no competition, no ability to compare different alliances or different players. It was just an option. If you wanted, you could fight other players. And it was usually used more as a punitive action. It was used more to punish people than it was for personal gain, because the impact to you upon attacking someone else was far greater than any sort of gain you would get out of it. The resources were minimal compared to the repair costs that you would incur.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in just about to start our 6th season, and this is the only PvP system that we've had in place, which are our current season format. And so that started obviously up to 6 seasons ago. We're just about to, or 5 seasons ago. We're just about to start our 6th season. And how it works, as you all know, is that you work your way into a certain division based on infamy, which you gain through PvP battles. And based on your division, you get a certain amount of medals paid out every week, provided that you do 5 battles a week.
Awesome.
So this is an okay way to make PvP fun. It does have some form of competition. There is a leaderboard, although the leaderboard doesn't work very well. But there is competition. There is incentive to engage in PvP that isn't just punishing other players. And it does serve PvP a little bit, but it's, in my opinion, doesn't do a very good job. It doesn't make PvP fun and engaging and rewarding. It's usually a chore. So this, our current PvP system chugged along until October when we released Warpath. So this was one of our first attempts to try and make PvP fun, engaging, and high intensity. So the idea with Warpath is, it's short rounds, intense combat, huge global leaderboard, and it incentivizes fighting as many different people as possible. So instead of just fighting the same 15 people or so you see around you in your sector, around your level, you have to spread far and wide if you want to win. And the idea behind that is that it would be creating new and different challenges that you wouldn't have normally done. Mm-hmm. So Warpath is a start. I don't think it's good enough still. I think it's a step in the right direction, but there's more that we need to make PvP fun.
Yeah, we got mixed reviews during the last Warpath. If I remember correctly, I believe there were still some issues with um, kind of lower level players having more of an advantage because of how the honor worked.
Yeah, yeah. And I think
So that's something we're going to be addressing?
definitely we addressed the formula to soften that, to make it so lower level players had less of an advantage with this iteration from 1 to 2, and we will continue to do it. We don't want to take large steps because you run the risk of overcorrection, and we don't want to overcorrect in terms of higher level players having a huge advantage. We want nobody to have a huge advantage. We want it to be a relatively even playing field, and so we will continue to take steps in the right direction. So yeah, it's still too far. It benefits lower levels too much, and we will continue to step it further towards what we hope is a good balance.
Cool. I'm sure the community will be really excited to hear that. Sweet. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about the prizes coming up in PvP Season 6. I mean, so by the time this podcast goes live, PvP 6 will be underway already. So kind of go into a little bit about what decisions went into adding the prizes back into Season 6, and also what kind of went into the decision to shorten the season and add in the new accolades as well.
So, Season 6, in my opinion, is halfway towards our end game. We recognize that for seasons to be exciting, there needs to be a season prize. There needs to be a thing that you work for when the season ends. As it is now, when the season ends, nothing happens. You just lose your infamy and start again. So there needs to be something to work towards, something that you get for winning and being successful and putting in all that effort. So right away, we want to add in season prizes, and that's what we're doing with Season 6. The premier prize are the accolades. And this is something that you see in every game and should be more prevalent in War Commander, is the ability to show off personal flair and kind of advertise your success and look cool. And that's something that we were trying to add in with these accolades for Season 6. I think they're really, really, really exciting. You'll see, as we start to release more and more snippets of them, but these will take the form of shiny auras that are glowing and swirling around your base on the world map. So any player that sees your base on the world map will know how successful you were in PvP. Your avatar and any leaderboard in the battle screen in your base will also show a flare representing your success in the PvP season.
That sounds awesome.
And once you win these prizes, they last for the entire next season. So you get to wear those badges of honor for months afterwards. So that's the biggest change you'll see in PvP Season 6. The mechanics, the underlying mechanics, are staying the same. They won't be the same for long. We have a lot of changes in the works to improve that, but in the interim, you'll see about the same mechanics, a shorter duration, hopefully a more intense experience because it's shorter, but because it's a shorter season. But the rewards are much more exciting.
That's really cool. It's too bad that I'm such a noob still. I probably won't be able to earn those accolades, but I'm sure the players will go crazy for them because I've seen them and they do look really awesome so far. The artists have done a really awesome job.
They have.
Sweet. All right, so I pulled some questions from the community on our forums. Do you want to start going through some of those?
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Player named Elite Berserker asks, will you at all be bringing back the dropship badge?
So there's two answers to that. The first is we want to. The second is it probably won't be anytime soon. For those of you who aren't aware, dropships were a brief feature that we implemented in the game that allowed you to carry units over top of other units on the world map, and they were unattackable because they were nice stealth ships. The problem, they were really cool, really fun to use. However, they were highly exploitable, and players were able to use them to permanently jail other players' bases with no recourse.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was very, very exploitable, very easily hacked, and although fun, was ultimately a net negative in quite a significant way. So if we are to bring them back, we have to fix them. That's a given. Do we want to fix them? Absolutely. Are they on the roadmap? Yes. However, there are things that I consider higher priority. And so, unfortunately, I can't give you a timeline, and I cannot promise that it'll be any time in the immediate future.
Damn, that's too bad. That's no problem. I'm sure the players will be happy to hear that it's at least on the horizon for some time. All right. Auburn Medic asks, are there any plans in the future for further reducing PvP platoon repair times?
So, with Season 6 and more specifically Season 7, we will be changing PvP quite drastically. We want to build significantly improved PvP systems that result in a lot more participation and activity. The current repair times are based around current levels of PvP activity. So it does stand to reason that we will change, most likely reduce, PvP repair times with new PvP systems. However, I can't promise that. We aren't at that stage yet. When these systems go live, we will evaluate and definitely take a look at where the PvP repair times should be. Mm-hmm. But there are no concrete plans to reduce them as of now.
Okay. And the changing anything with the repair times would also change the cost of the repairs, that's right?
That's correct, yes.
Cool. So the PvP platoons already have a 50% reduction.
They do, yeah.
Repair times. So do you feel like, with the current metagame, do you feel like any changes need to be made to that still, given that the PvP platoons already have that kind of advantage?
It depends on how big, how important of an aspect of the game PvP becomes. Right now, PvP has relatively low participation. The vast majority of our players don't really participate in PvP in any active or significant way. And they're mostly, outside of Warpath, it's mostly, less than 10% of our players are actively PvPing, of our active players. And so the number of PvP platoons and the repair times reflect this. If PvP becomes a much larger part of the game, if it becomes, the equivalent of our PvE activities, then we will absolutely have to change the way our PvP platoons are structured, both in terms of repair costs and how many there are, to match the rising significance.
Sweet. Do you think one reason for the low participation rate in PvP right now is because of repair costs, or do you think there's other factors that are more prominent? I
think it's a number of different factors. I don't think repair costs are the highest because when Warpath is on, PvP participation skyrockets. I think there is no engaging in fun PvP system. There's no good competition, and most importantly, there's no way to compete as an alliance.
Definitely,
games at their core are social experiences. Specifically, our game is an online game that you play with thousands of other people. You want to compete as a team, as a unit, and compete with and against different players, and that's not well served right now.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm sure we'll be touching on that a little bit later, but the player XX Marathon XX and another player, Max Marsh, asked they would both like to know what the future holds for resource depots. Will they be getting any sort of update in PvP in any way?
Yes. So absolutely yes. That's high on our roadmap for PvP items, is to integrate resource depots is a key item to capture and hold. As to when, probably Season 8 is the most realistic bet. Season 6 obviously is starting or has begun as of the time you listen to this. And Season 7 is being worked on and does not include updates to resource depots. So it'll probably be Season 8, if I could give my best guess.
Cool. Can you kind of hint at any sort of specific changes to the resource depots that would make PvP more fun in Season 8?
The specifics are still being nailed down, so I don't want to I don't want to speak out of turn. What I can say is the goal is to make them something that benefits you and your alliance in terms of score. So the goal is to make them something that's kind of like a king of the hill, where you benefit from holding them for as long as possible.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Cool. All right. So the player Corrento asks, are there any plans on revamping Spec Ops in the future?
Absolutely. My feeling is that Spec Ops aren't exactly where they should be. I think there's a lot of potential for a really fun and interesting addition to the game. And I think we should be taking advantage of it better than we are now. So I can confirm that improving and adding new and interesting ways to use Spec Ops is on our roadmap for the medium to near future. We are planning to tackle it this year for sure, probably within about 6 months as outside bounds, but we do not have concrete plans to complete that project in the next couple months. So yes, we're absolutely doing it. Yes, it's a high priority item. Yes, it is on our roadmap, but exactly when that will land, I can't tell you right now.
So Alec R would like to know when we can expect the new leaderboards to be implemented in the game. That's definitely been a very hot topic on the forums.
Yes, absolutely. The project is almost complete. We started it months ago to bring a whole bunch of brand new leaderboards, and it's nearing completion. So right now, we're aiming to either launch it mid-Season 6 or in concert with Season 7.
Cool. Can you kind of give us any insight onto what the new leaderboards might look like and how they might function?
They will function, so that's
that's probably the most important thing.
That's the most important piece. A lot of the things you've seen in Warpath with our leaderboard there, we're trying to build upon that.
Sweet. Let's see. So player Kixi user underscore 1369478766759 underscore 18061 underscore 447417777 asks, what are you going to do with legendary units? Are they just a collector's item, or are we going to release any new ones?
Yeah, definitely. So right now they are a collector item. That's where they exist in the game as it is today. They don't have a lot of viability, basically none or close to none. There are much better units with lower repair time and more functionality in the game today that are not too hard to acquire. So they're a collector item. Will they remain a collector item for the near future? Probably. There are not any concrete plans to change that anytime soon, nor is that on the immediate roadmap or even the medium-term roadmap. I think there are a place for legendary units. I think that PvP will continue to gain prominence as an aspect of the game, and that means that legendary units along with that should be introduced. So I guess what I'm saying is that, yeah, right now they're collector's pieces, unfortunately, and that'll probably how they will remain for the time being. However, as PvP gains prominence, I would like to revisit legendary units and perhaps release new ones. But again, this is tentative discussion, and there are no plans that have been discussed or projects that have been planned to do so.
All right. This guy has my favorite name that I've seen so far. The player Hot Sausage would like to ask you, what PvP features can we expect in the future? Maybe getting Master Thief Spec Ops back?
The most important and most exciting PvP feature you can expect for the near future is Alliance PvP.
Sweet. Can you go into any details?
I think I'll leave it for now. We're hammering out exactly how it'll work. I don't want to give any false impressions, but we definitely will have Alliance PvP very soon.
That's going to be awesome. All right. I think that's pretty much all we have time for today. I know it's a Friday and we have tons of meetings to get to, so we can just leave it there. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds good to me.
All right. So I want to say thank you again to the community for providing us with tons of awesome questions, for Goldendoodle here. I apologize that we weren't able to get to all of them. But when we post this podcast on the forums, we'll leave it open for discussion so that we can chime in and kind of chat with you guys about other stuff related to PvP. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share, Goldendoodle?
Just how much I appreciate that we get to do this. I've mentioned this a lot, that we have unbelievably passionate player base for War Commander. A lot of the time that passion manifests itself in some strong emotions, both positive and negative, and I love that. I love that people have strong emotions about our game. We work extremely hard to make this, and to see the fact that there are so many people playing still, and so many people that care about what happens, it's a huge amount of trust that people have placed in us, deservedly so or not. And just to have the opportunity to take part in this is an unbelievable honor. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate the players' passion as well. I see it every day on the forums, and even though sometimes things come in, very negative at some point, I know it's just the passion that's, shining through, and that's kind of what I try to focus on as a community manager on the forums and our other communication channels. So I do really agree with you there, and I'm glad we have all these players still who, want to see the game head in the right direction.
Definitely.
Awesome. So that's going to do it for us here on episode 2 of Burny's Briefing Room. We hope you all are enjoying PvP Season 6 so far, and we wish all of the commanders in the sector the best of luck.